Welcome back to another edition of Against the Grain Sports. It's me, Gerard McCain. I'm here with Jody Coleman and Jason Coleman. And basically, we just want to discuss contenders and pretenders after the trade deadline. We had some teams that made some really good moves, and then we had some teams that didn't do anything at all. And then we had some teams that just did whatever they could to just do something, to be doing something. So without further ado, Jody Coleman, tell me who your contenders are after this trade deadline.
Well, hey, once again, I'm excited to be back and talking NBA basketball. We're coming down to the stretch run, and we're talking about pretenders and contenders. So one of my top contenders, of course, is the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets went and signed LaMarcus Aldridge, which is, to me is a little bit overkill. I don't think that they necessarily needed LaMarcus Aldridge, but if they wanted to put an explanation point on this season and potentially an explanation point on the championship, it was a good move. Bring him off the bench and extending their bench to about 9 players deep, where they can go either way, and some veteran leadership. I want to talk about another contender is the Los Angeles Clippers. Los Angeles Clippers trading Lou Williams and bringing in Rajon Rondo, a veteran point guard. You know, at first I kind of questioned that move, but then I thought about the pedigree that he had, 2 championships. He know how to get people involved. For him to be in the league this long and not have a jump shot and still be as effective as he is, I think what they need is a floor general. And then let's not forget, Rondo is very good on the ball defender. Now, another one of my key contenders is the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets went and got Aaron Gordon. That solidified their front line, a team that already had a lot of weapons. We were talking a few weeks ago about the third option, and Aaron Gordon definitely can be a third option in Denver. Now, let me go to my pretenders on this trade deadline, if I may. The first one comes to mind is the Los Angeles Lakers. Los Angeles Lakers went and signed Drummond today, but I don't think that does anything for them but clog up the middle for LeBron and clog up the middle for Anthony Davis. I don't think that helped them at all. One of my major ones, and they didn't make a move at all, is really the Phoenix Suns. They had a good chance of adding pieces they had the second best record in the Western Conference, and I don't think they added any pieces, even though they're a well-oiled machine right now. But if they had aspirations of winning championship, I don't think they did anything to help their cause. The Utah Jazz, I told you they needed to make a move. They did not make a move. There was plenty of free agents out here and buyouts, and they didn't make any moves. And last but not least is the Milwaukee Bucks. Once again, I told you they're going to go out in the second round, no matter how hot they're going to get right now, without making a move, bringing somebody in, looking at some of these buyouts. They haven't made any moves, and I think Milwaukee has definitely turned into a contender. They turned into a pumpkin. The clock strike midnight on them.
Jason, go ahead and give me your analysis on what just happened in the NBA trade deadline.
I kind of, once again, I'm glad to be back. Glad to, be back talking basketball with you fellas. I kind of got a side here, with Jody, with the contenders, with the Brooklyn Nets. I think, like you said, LaMarcus Aldridge, he was more of a novelty than the actual fitting piece. I think right now Blake Griffin is kind of playing a little better than I expected him to play. So there was really no need for LaMarcus Aldridge, but I think he extends their bench. He gives them an additional guy to come out, pick and pop. He's a very, very good at the pick and pop. Still doesn't help them where they need help the most, was the defensive end. So I thought a better buyout candidate for them would have been Gorey Jean, the center who just got released by Memphis. I think he actually signed, I want to say with Dallas. I forgot who he signed with. But I think Jean would have been better because he's more of a defensive center. And I think he would have added more value to their bench and actually signing LaMarcus Aldridge. But I still have them as a contender. A second contender, I'm going a little bit against the grain with the Lakers. Actually, I think Drummond, he's not a game changer, he's not a world beater, but I think what he does, he prevents you from playing Anthony Davis at the 5 so much, so he doesn't get wore down. Coming back off that injury, if he comes back, because I still don't think he's coming back off the injury. The Achilles injury is a real, they say it's a calf strain, but I really think it's an Achilles injury, and those things take time to heal, no matter how much time he's taking off, especially if he's strained the Achilles, it's usually like a 3 to 5 month injury to be out. But I think what Drummond will provide more rebounding for the Lakers, kind of a space eater, doesn't really block shots, really doesn't provide them shooting range, so he kind of clogs the middle. But I think he gets like if you stagger him and Davis, it keeps them with a center on the floor at all times. Another contender I want to talk about, underrated move was the Miami Heat. Now I don't know if everything's gonna come together for the Heat, but I think their perimeter, by adding Victor Oladipo, they have a couple of the right guys that you want to go battle with at night, every night on the defensive end for sure. Playing with a leader like Jimmy Butler would probably reinvigorate his passion to play basketball. He can also take some of the ball handling duties off Dragic and help with the additional spacing he received with Robinson and Hero on the court. He can actually operate a little bit more driving the lane and actually finding them on kickouts. My pretenders. I want to look at the team. First of all, I do want to start with the Milwaukee Bucks. I think the window, like Jody said, I think the window is slowly closing because I think the team just it's something off about the structure of this team. I don't know. You still have Giannis who is a top 5 MVP candidate, but I still don't know what else they have around him. I mean, Chris Middleton, outside of one game last year in the playoffs, really wasn't really that great. Drew Holiday, like I said, he's an all-world defender, but I think when it comes down to Drew Holiday, the offense is going to catch up with him in the postseason. And I think that they needed one more move, and they just didn't make it. I don't know what that move was, but I think they need to find another shooter that can actually help Middleton and Holiday, and they kind of spread the floor more for Giannis. I actually like the George Hill move for the 76ers. I think he solidified their bench, but I think they still are missing a piece given the injury to Embiid. I think there's a possibility of an Al Horford buyout. That'll be a candidate, somebody that may be able to come back to Philadelphia and help the team out. But I still think they lack, I think, the depth they need to beat the Nets. And I actually think that Heat would probably give them some troubles there also if they may face a meet up with the Heat. My final team that I felt like didn't do anything. I mean, my final pretender. I feel like Boston. Like I don't know what Boston's doing. Like you bring in Mo Wagner, and I think he's not what you need. They should have been front and center looking for Andre Drummond. I think he's something like a rebounder that they need. They can't rebound the basketball. They're too small. They gave away their best. They actually sent away their best interior defender in Daniel Theis. And I think it's just I don't. Again, it's another team. I just don't know what they're doing. You add Evan Fournier, but he's not really what you need. You need somebody down low who actually can handle the bigs that you come across in the playoffs, like a Giannis, like a Joel Embiid. If you run into Brooklyn, you still don't have nobody who can match up with Kevin Durant. I just think Boston missed the boat here. They had that huge trade exception. They didn't take advantage of it. They had a chance against Sasha Vujovic. I'm sorry, I cannot say his name. Sasha Vujovic, and they didn't go all in on that. So now I think they're still stuck with this pretty middling team that they're probably looking at a first round exit.
Well, I'm gonna go against the grain on both of you guys. My two teams that I thought did a great job at this trade deadline. First of all, the Portland Trail Blazers. By trading Gary Trent Jr. and getting Norman Powell, you got McCollum and you got Damian Lillard some help. And, I know Gary Trent Jr. has been playing really good. He's been shooting the ball really good. But Norman Powell he can do all of that. He can do a little bit more than what Gary Trent Jr. can do. And he plays a little bit of defense. He can create his own shot. I don't know if you're going to start him or bring him off the bench, but if you bring him off the bench with Carmelo Anthony, that gives you two guys on that second unit that can create their own shot or get shots for somebody else. And they both can contribute in the points category off the bench because in the playoffs, a lot of teams lose because they can't score in the fourth quarter. So you add a guy that can score in any quarter, first, second, third, or fourth. I'm also go with the New York Knicks, who didn't really make any real moves, but they got rid of some guys who was just kind of lingering around and just kind of, you didn't really know what the Knicks was going to do with those guys. And they ended up getting a second round draft. And they got a guy named Ferguson, who's a pretty athletic guy, and he plays defense. So we'll see what the Knicks do with him. But I'm gonna go with my pretender as the Brooklyn Nets, man. I know everybody got these guys as the gods of basketball, but it's like the Brooklyn Nets right now are those little kids at the park who who's starting to win some games and they see more competition coming. So they're like, let me go get my uncles. So they done added both of their uncles in Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge, thinking that's going to get them to the promised land. But I don't care how good they playing right now. We've seen this show before with these same guys, man.
And they got 3 championships combined.
I don't care. James Harden is the best player on that team, and we all know what James Harden does in the playoffs.
Kevin Durant is the best player on this team. Come on now.
He's not playing. He's not playing.
We don't know if he's
going to play.
Hold on. Can I go against the grain? Can I go against the grain?
And if he does play, we don't know if he's going to break down again or not. I'm not saying this for no reason, man. I'm saying this for a reason. Even if Kevin Durant does play, we still they don't play defense. They're not stopping nobody. They are barely winning games against teams who are not really that good.
They're all professional. Hold on. Gerard, can I interject, man? Can I go against the grain? I'm gonna go against the grain. The Brooklyn Nets. I'm not saying that the move that they made with LaMarcus Aldridge or even the Blake Griffin trade put them over. I think they had enough talent to win it prior to. Right now, we cannot deny James Harden playing MVP basketball right now. He's
always playing MVP basketball.
But this is the thing. He's not going to get wore out when he gets to the playoffs because now he has a Kevin Durant. He has a Kyrie Irving that can take that pressure off him. We discussed this. This is the third time we done discussed this, Gerard. I understand what you're trying to say. I don't really think the LaMarcus Aldridge trade is nothing that moved the needle for me. I mean, it's a good piece to have. It's almost like if you got one luxury car, put another luxury car in your garage. That ain't a bad thing. My thing, do we know they're gonna win a championship? We don't know. But it's kind of ironic that you say Kevin Durant. We don't know what we're gonna get when he come back. But when LeBron James come back, he gonna be the same LeBron James. When Anthony Davis come back, he's gonna be the same Anthony Davis.
Did I mention anything about the Lakers or anything about LeBron James? No,
I didn't say you did. But what you trying to say with Kevin Durant? Talking about we don't know if he's gonna break down. We don't know if LeBron gonna break down.
But we're not talking about LeBron. We talking about the Brooklyn Nets and Kevin Durant and James Harden. That's what we talking about right now.
They beating teams without Kevin Durant though.
They supposed to.
What you mean they supposed to? What do you mean they supposed to?
They supposed to be because listen.
Why the Lakers ain't winning without LeBron?
I just actually watched the game the other night that they won without LeBron.
Who they beat? Colonel White?
Was it Cleveland?
Right. I mean, you act like they beat somebody.
Who was it that they beat?
I think it was Cleveland. I seriously think it was Cleveland. I think it was Cleveland.
Who can beat Cleveland? We can put a team together and beat Cleveland right now.
No, we can't. But
I hit 40 on Cleveland, man. I'll drop 40 on Cleveland, man. For real.
And that's why. And if you can drop 40 on Cleveland, James Harden should be able to drop 90. That's my point.
So what you trying to say? Your boy can't ball?
I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is we see this season in and season out where James Harden is the best player on a team, and he does all of these phenomenal things in the regular season, and then he gets to the playoffs, and he's regular James Harden. But I think that people are being fooled because he's playing with Kyrie and he's playing with Kevin Durant, and that's supposed to solve all the problems in the basketball world. But I'm telling you, it's not. They are going to play some teams that play defense, and you see how these guys perform when somebody plays defense on them. Luka Doncic, James Harden, Bradley Beal, they have a hard time scoring when guys play defense on them. And I'm not just saying this. I watch the games from beginning to end, and I see the shot selections, and I see how these guys, they struggle when nobody's playing defense on them. When nobody's really playing defense on them, these guys are hitting all kinds of shots. But when somebody puts some pressure on them, they're not hitting those shots.
Go ahead, Jason.
I think. I mean, I get what your point. Like with the defensive pressure, I think this year, like Harden, I'll say Kevin Durant's probably definitely the best player Harden's played with. No, that's no disrespect to Chris Paul. And I think basically, that like once the playoffs come around, Durant's familiar with taking that. I mean, he's a 2-time Finals MVP, so I know he's capable of taking that pressure off. Now, even if he's 80% of Kevin Durant, that's still better than about 95% of the league. So I just think I don't see the Harden breakdown coming this year, because I know he's kind of exerting all his energy to make sure they stay relevant, maybe get home court advantage. But I can see Kyrie showing up in the playoffs. I can see Kevin Durant showing up in the playoffs. And who knows, maybe Blake Griffin may have 1 or 2 turn back the clock performances that take that pressure off of James Harden being like, I have to be lights out every night when he had to be in Houston. And I can see, only team I can see that get him that kind of trouble is Miami, because they have so many different wing defenders to throw at him. Iguodala, you got Butler, now you got Oladipo. That's 3 different wing defenders you can throw at Harden to kind of slow him down.
But I'm going to jump in if I may, man. Gerard said something that really got up under my skin. He said that players in the league, when defense is played on them, they don't perform well. We know Bradley Beal is one of the top scorers in the game. So you must mean 80, 90% of the game.
When they played the New York Knicks, he had 19 points.
Okay, and players have bad nights. You know what I'm saying?
That's not a bad night. New York is like the top defensive team in the league. That's not a bad night. Somebody just played defense.
Okay, but he still had 19. You act like 19 is something to sneeze at. Some of the players on the Knicks team, they scored 19. That'd be their career high.
And it would be, but they not there for that. They there to help rebound and play defense, and that's what wins games. Everybody doing what they supposed to do. Scoring 40 and 50 points tonight does not win games, and Bradley Beal is proving that, because the Wizards are like 16 and 28,
and they still got a chance to make the playoffs in the weak Eastern Conference. Don't count them out. They can have a losing record, still make it. And then you said something about Luka Doncic. Did you watch the series when Luka Doncic went against the Clippers? And my guy, Kawhi Leonard, one of the top premier defensive players in the league, he is averaging almost 38 points a game against. So they weren't playing defense on him?
What's Kawhi playing? Was Kawhi checking him?
He off and on, he scored on everybody. Luka Doncic scored on everybody in that series. He just didn't have enough to beat the Clippers.
Yeah, once Porzingis got hurt, that was pretty much a wrap. I think, I personally think if Porzingis doesn't get hurt in that series, they actually win that series, because I just think, the Clippers didn't want to be there to begin with. It just seemed like they were ready to go home, like after first round. And I just think had Porzingis been in that series, I think, Luka, they actually got through the Clippers.
But that's what I'm saying, Gerard. You saying a lot of what ifs if they don't play defense. And I know the league doesn't play defense like they did back in the day. That's what is the advantage for Brooklyn, because they don't play defense. Because if you look in the Eastern Conference, you got 3 guys.
But there are some teams when they get to the playoffs that's going to play defense on them.
Okay, name a team in the Eastern Conference that's going to be able to defend the Brooklyn Nets.
The New York Knicks.
All right.
Only teams I can see defending them,
the New York Knicks. Listen, man, y'all keep thinking these are the Knicks from last year, man. If you haven't watched at least 10 to 15 games of the Knicks play, you can't tell me nothing about the Knicks, man. The Knicks playing defense, man. And that game, they should have beat Brooklyn if it wasn't for a few little couple calls. They should have beat Brooklyn. James Harden did not have a really good game that game.
But with the Knicks, with Mitchell Robinson going out again, how good is the Knicks defense going to be without Mitchell Robinson in the middle again?
We still going to be a good defensive team. I mean, we had a good defensive stretch from when he was hurt, when he broke his hand or hurt his hand or whatever. So we still got defense. The team has locked into playing defense, period. Everybody. It ain't just one person. It's everybody.
And see, I give you that. I think the defensive philosophy has changed because of the head coach, and he brings it in. So the Knicks, of course the Knicks are going to be improved defensively. I mean, that's his track record. But in the NBA, it ain't about if you can hold teams at 80 no more. You got to be able to score, and Brooklyn is going to be able to score regardless. You got 3 guys that can potentially give you 80 points a game. Now you throwing Blake Griffin, you throwing LaMarcus Aldridge is going to give you another 15 points, and then the rest of the bench players going to give you another 15 points. So I told you they're going to average over 125 to 130 points a game. When the playoffs come, it will shrink a little bit. It'll go to about 110, 115. But guess what? The teams ain't going to be able to, they're going to be trying to shoot 3-pointers to keep up with the Brooklyn Nets, and they're not going to be able to do that. There's not enough perimeter players on these teams that are considered contenders like a Milwaukee or Philadelphia or the Knicks or the Miami Heat. They just don't have enough on the outside. And when you look on the other side of that court and you see Kevin Durant, healthy, you see Kyrie Irving healthy, and you see James Harden healthy, you automatically know that you're going to have to do more. Just have you ever seen an NFL game when you're playing against like a high-powered offense like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Kansas City Chiefs? You don't settle for field goals. You got to go for touchdowns. That's why some teams lose, and that's what's going to happen in this aspect when teams go against Brooklyn. They're going to feel like they can't go for two. They're going to have to go for three, and the volume of three-point shots when they're not a three-point shooting team is going to cause them to get in the fast break situation. And guess who's great in the open court? The Brooklyn Nets.
The only team I don't
listen. Y'all cannot talk Brooklyn into a championship. So that's all I got to say about that.
Brooklyn, so what happens when they do win?
Brooklyn is not
what happens when they do win
this year?
So what happens if they do win?
Then I'll congratulate them.
No, you're not. You still like, well, they only won because they went and got Michael Jordan out of retirement or something.
I'm being real. I'm being realistic. I mean, like I said, Brooklyn, like I said, they on paper they look to be the favorites in the Eastern Conference, but you got to play the game. And I still we don't know what Steve Nash is going to do. Although D'Antoni, I feel like D'Antoni is really the coach. Steve Nash is just the figurehead. I think D'Antoni's the coach. But if it comes down to coaching in the playoffs, I mean, I'll be honest with you, my favorite is the Miami Heat because I as bad, I went from a guy who disliked Eric Spoelstra to because I knew he was only successful because of his players to a guy who really, really enjoys watching that man coach. And I can see that he maximizes all the players on his roster. And I think with a guy like Jimmy Butler, it gives them a puncher's chance to actually knock them off. So that's kind of that's where I stand on the Eastern Conference at this point.
But that's what I'm saying, though. Like Jason, if Brooklyn meets Miami, we don't know if Brooklyn is going to come out of that. We really don't.
We'll see.
Yeah, Miami. Like I said, Miami have.
It's not guaranteed that Brooklyn is going to come out of that series. If Brooklyn plays Philadelphia, it's not guaranteed that they're going to come out of that series.
They got to get healthy and be healthy, and I think I think Miami and Philadelphia are the two biggest obstacles for Brooklyn, and it's sad because I feel like Milwaukee has a shot also, but I think Milwaukee just doesn't have enough to stay competitive with them. And I've been saying this I just don't trust Bud. I just don't trust Budenholzer to get anywhere. I don't think that man's ever seen the conference final. Actually, he did get to the conference finals once and got swept. But I don't trust that man in the playoffs, coaching in the playoffs.
The only way Milwaukee gets out the first round of it is if they play the Magic or the Raptors.
They probably play the Hornets or something like that.
They
probably play somebody like the Hornets.
Well, LaMelo hurt, so they might beat them. But then again, Terry Rozier ain't he. Hey, I would take Terry over Milwaukee's guards.
Well, I'm gonna go. Hey, listen, guys, man, that was a great discussion, man. It's Against the Grain Sports. We talking the NBA playoffs. We talking the NBA trade deadline and buyouts, and who is contenders and who pretenders. Hey, like and subscribe to the page. Tell me what you think. Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? Let us know. We want to hear your feedback. We definitely want y'all to be a part of Against the Grain Sports. And I'm your host, Jody Coleman. We got Gerard McCain, and we got Jason Coleman. We'll be back.